Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pull Up with Limbs and Things. I know you see my face frozen. I am working that out, but I wanted to make sure we come on and get started with Pull Up with Limbs and Things. Today is our actual first day of the new year. We'll be coming on first Saturdays at of every month at 6 p.m. So Pull up with limbs and things is to challenge what you think you know, to confirm what you do know, and to be able to share this information with someone else. And this year, you'll get first notification of any products that we have that we feel will be helpful to you as you age in place. And tonight, we want to bring to you the Pull Up with Limbs and Things non skid socks. And as soon as you can see my picture, I'll show them to you. But it is a method of you. Whenever you don't have carpeted surfaces to maintain your balance, they're available for purchase. They are $15. And if you're interested and you're a patient, I can bring them to you. And if you are not, you can purchase them through our email address and you'll get that information. So tonight we have Mr. Mark Sickle. He is the CEO of Fitness for Health. And we met through the Bethesda Chamber of Commerce and the Health and Wellness Committee. And he has such a wonderful facility in the Rockville area. And they have such great methods that we can incorporate both our cognitive senses as well as being able to functionally move so that we can remain as agile as we can as we get older. So, welcome, Mr. Sickle. How are you?
Well, very good, Dr. James. It's really a pleasure being here with you, and I really am honored that you're allowing me to speak to your group tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So, tell us a little bit about Fitness for Health.
So, at Fitness for Health, we actually see a wide variety of folks. We have from the younger generation, from 6 months all the way up to our oldest client right now. Actually, we just saw her yesterday. Is 96 years old, and
Awesome.
so the question is, what do we do at Fitness for Health? So we provide occupational therapy, physical therapy, and then we have a whole motor team. And what does that mean? So really, the motor team involves where, let's say, someone has graduated from their therapy, from occupational therapy or physical therapy. And we really try to bring in a lot of functional skills, right? And as your audience will share with you, that many times those skills involve what I call activities of daily living,
Uh
right?
huh.
Be able to navigate in a shopping mall. Uh, outside when you're just doing everyday things, even when you're driving a car or if you're at home and taking down something from the cupboard, all those kind of things. So we really try to do a lot of functional movement exercises that help involve that. But also, really, what makes it very unique is everything that we do, Dr. James, is we really base it on a lot of the research that's out there. And put it simply, the research says instead of someone when they're doing their exercises, right? If I can get them to not think about really what we're trying to work with them on, but they think they're doing something else, and that something else would be something that would be fun, right? Because I think we'll all agree with this. When someone says, "Hey, let's go out and exercise," or Mr. or Mrs. Smith, you need to go out, walk 10 minutes and try to do some light resistance exercises. You know what? That's not exciting.
At
But
all.
what if I told you that we can actually take some of those activities and making it really interactive? And what it is the word that they use is what's called dual tasking. So
Yes.
meaning that we're taking a motor and you're involving it with a cognitive piece. Now, along with that, let's add in another element. And the other element is I always say we try to gamify it. What does that mean? We try to make it fun. So the best way that I can say to your listening audience today is I tell everyone here, when you come out here, imagine that you're going to be doing your exercises in Disney World, right? So everything is real interactive and you don't realize some of the things that you've done. But I want to make sure to your audience today is that, look, even if someone can't come here, there's so many different things um, that you can do and a lot of different ways that you could make things fun. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Many times I tell my, what I call my seasoned generation, right? So as we get older, you're not just getting old, you're getting more seasoned, right?
Absolutely.
And so what I want to do is I tell them to walk in the mall. But when you're walking in the mall, one, it's great because it's a very controlled environment, climate
Hmm.
controlled. Second of all, I mean, obviously during this time, I recommend that people still try to wear masks. If there's not a lot of people around there, many times you can take it off. So
Uh-huh.
that's an advantage, right? But here's one of the things that I recommend people to do: make it to a game. And you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to see how many, uh, each time I go by a window of a store, how many things can I see that are red? How
Hmm.
many things are blue? And what I want you to do is I want you to start remembering that, right? Now, let's say on your second lap that you do, let's say on the same level, you say, you know what, I remember seeing at the store two red items. And I want you to try to think to yourself, what store was that? Can
Hmm.
I locate those two red items? If you're with somebody, which I recommend you doing it, there's nothing better than doing this with a friend, your significant other, your partner, whatever that might be. But you really try to make it to a game. The
Yeah.
other thing that I'm going to recommend you to do, everyone seems to have technology today, or many of us have smartphones, right?
Yes.
And the smartphones are made now where it can actually track your distance. How far did you go?
Right.
What I tell many folks to do is to track not only how long it took you, right? Meaning how far of a distance that you did, but how long did that take? And then what I want you to do is you can keep track of it, right? Some of the systems on your phone might keep track of it for you. Or you could write it down when you get home or plug it on your notes in your smartphone, right? And then what I want you to do is see each time, are you able to cut a few seconds off,
Hmm.
right? Depending on your level that you're at, it might only be 5 seconds, and that's okay. If it's someone else at a little bit higher level, maybe you'll cut off 2 or 3 minutes. But I want to make sure that I tell everyone this: it doesn't matter where you are as far as your level of what we call fitness.
Hmm.
What's really important is that everyone has taken that first step. And what I mean is, I want to tell everyone this: that even if you could do only 5 minutes and you need to take a break, that's okay. Because something that I want to share with everyone, and they might have already heard this, but they did a study once that I read that they found they took two people, two groups. Uh, In the first group, they did 30 minutes of continuous exercise. Then they took the other group and they did 5 minutes of 6 bouts of exercise. So they did 5 minutes. Maybe they took a 10, 15-minute rest. Maybe they took a 30-minute rest. Only 5 minutes. And at the end, they decided to say, let's look at the benefits, as we know, of exercise. Not only are we enjoying it, right? But they wanted to look at the benefits of exercise from a physiological factor. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, which benefited more, the 30 minutes of continuous or the one who did 5 minutes of six bouts of 5 minutes of exercise?
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly enough, they pretty much were pretty close to being equal. And the reason why I'm sharing that quick little study with your audience is it doesn't matter how long you're doing it. Maybe those 5 minutes might only be 3 minutes. I'm okay with that. You can do it. Let's start off easy and slowly do it. And what I mean by that is maybe for the first 2 weeks, you do those 5 or 6 minutes, take a rest, do it again, do a little bit more. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to listen to your body. Try not to get caught up with, oh my God, I just saw that person go by me. They look like they're older than I am. I should be able to do that. You know what? Don't worry about them. I
Right.
want you to think about what's best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get there because you know what? You're going to be that person that's going to go by someone. They're going to go, I'm just like that. I should be able to do that because you worked yourself up there.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want you to think of different ways that you could do it. There's so many games that you could do. Another thing that you could do is to take your distance and at home, you know, track it on a map and say with you or your person that you're walking with, hey, let's see how far we can get in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what area we got to. It really makes it really um, a lot of fun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, there's just so many things that you could do. You could actually simply go online, believe it or not, and come up with different games. So you play these games as you're walking,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, one of the things that we talk about, and this is harder than you think, is start with 100 and then subtract 7. So right, 193, 93 from 7, and keep working yourself down, right?
Right.
So it's a lot harder. You could start off, with threes and then fives. Again, everything is slowly working it, uh, so it gets harder and harder. The way that I actually describe it is through scaffolding, right? So you're just kind of slowly building up. But the last thing that I'll say is please, I beg you, don't feel like it's all going to be done today. Rome wasn't built in a day.
No.
So I'd rather you tell me that you've been doing this for 6 months, and I would be very, very proud of you. Now, remember, it's not just cardiovascular, as I'm sure Dr. James has shared with you on the times, is you really want to do some type of resistance. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really good. And there's all different ways that you can do, and you could be in touch with Dr. James, and I'm sure she's got plenty of different exercises you could do with bands or kind of resistance bands. If you don't have the budget, even for resistance bands, believe it or not, we could take cans of tuna fish, cans of soup. There's all different ways that we can do this. So I want you to know that there's always a way to get around it. It doesn't have to be, some polished piece of equipment that looks so cool. We could find a way to do it. And I'm more than happy that even if you never see me professionally, but if you ever say, Mark, or even to Dr. James, I'm trying to figure out how to do this, or is there a way that I can make this time equipment? I'm happy to really brainstorm with you and figure out how can we get to your goal.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have or Dr. James might have, and I'll try to do the best I can to tell you what it is.
Good. Thank you so much for that. I think it's very fitting that you said your facility is like the Disneyland, or you should think of it as Disneyland. I definitely thought of it, when I was there, to see your laser room, being able to combine cognitive things and how you mentioned about doing colors as well as trying to move to those colors. So combining function and physical activity with cognitive abilities. And it's so important that we do that just as we get older, because there are times when our brain could be used in a different way, but as we are moving, we are actually helping each part of our body to continue to maintain the same level that we need it to be. And so tonight, we also want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. You can write your question in the chat. If you are watching us live, you can hashtag live. If you're catching this on a replay after it's aired, you can hashtag replay. And then I have a few questions for you. Let's see. What tell us a little bit about your background, and is it in health, is it in technology? Because I know a lot of the things at your facility in terms of equipment wise are very tech savvy. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, it's a good question. So, growing up, going to school, I was diagnosed with having a pretty bad learning disability. And what did that mean? So for me, it meant that I had the intellect, but for me, in traditional or conventional ways of learning, was really difficult for me. So we had to figure out ways to do that. For me, also from a gross motor standpoint, I really wasn't that really coordinated,
Mm-hmm.
which caused me to have a low self esteem or my social emotional level. But, I was very fortunate because I had a supported family, and, I had friends that were very supportive and would help me in the areas that I needed help.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, I was fortunate enough to graduate from school, college, University of Maryland, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of great experiences. And one of the experiences is, so I was what's called an athletic trainer, a certified athletic trainer. So people always go, "Oh my, is that the person that runs out there with the water bottle?" No, what that is that is someone who works closely with people like Dr. James or orthopedics. We do a lot of work in the sports medicine field where if someone gets injured, right, we decide what is that injury
Mm-hmm.
and what are some of the treatments that we can do to manage that, and then the exercises that we can get them back. Um, so I had that opportunity. So when I graduated from school, you have to take your boards to become a certified athletic trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And many states, as Maryland is, have it where you're licensed. And what does that mean? That means that many of the states, depending on how it's set up, you can actually, and depending on the clinic that you're in, there are certain rules that you have to do that you can actually do certain treatments and have it reimbursed. And there's certain protocols you have to be with and so forth. Um, so that being said, one of my ultimate goals was over time, I wanted to be able to figure out a way to have a place that I can work with children, right, that had some of the same challenges I did, and adults that had maybe other challenges.
Yeah.
So I was just very, very fortunate. It wasn't like, if you came out to my place now, you'd say, oh my God, I don't know how I did it. And quite frankly, I started off, I kid you not, I started working, I'll just tell you real fast. I did work at North Anne Arundel Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
There was a program called, if we all remember, there was a program out there called OptiFast. It was a weight management program for people that were really struggling with weight. And I'll just remind people, I will show you how old I am. Is this is when Oprah Winfrey came out on stage, and she came out in this wagon full of fat, showing look, this is what it can do, and
Mm.
reducing that. And what my job was at North Anne Arundel Hospital, they had this pretty regimented OptiFast diet, which is kind of a liquid diet, medically oriented, and all that stuff. And I did the exercise part of it, but it was really there where it made me realize. that, you know what, even myself, if I said, hey, Dr. James, let's go for a walk, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to enjoy being with Dr. James and talking about it. But if I go out and do that by myself, quite frankly, it's kind of boring, right? So
Absolutely.
I realized that no matter what the exercise that we're trying to get or whatever the objective is, just like if you're with Dr. James from a physical therapy standpoint, she's got to figure out how can I get them to do this exercise, but not dwell on it, not think about, oh my God, I gotta do this perfect form and stuff. Because I'll just say this, research has shown us that if we can get you from not being internal, it's what we call attention to focus is internal in
Right.
the traditional way that we exercise, and make it external, make you feel like you're doing something else. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? You're able to not only have a higher level of compliance, but also we get a, a higher level of motivation. You hit your goals at a much faster rate. But anyway, jumping forward, I actually started my work at Landon School as an athletic trainer,
Mm-hmm.
an all boys school, and they gave me an opportunity to start a private practice on the side. And I had a client that owned buildings, and he asked me if I could help him with one building in particular to help him design a exercise facility. So I did, and then he said, "Look, if you want, you can move in there. It's small, little gym." And then over time, I said, "Is there any way that we can get a small amount of space upstairs?" And so anyway, over the time, it kind of grew, and here I am in the building that I'm at now. I want to say it's been, thinking that's terrible. I want to say 27 years, something. It's been a long time.
That's
Uh,
awesome. And it does not look like it. It looks brand new.
well, thank you. So we really try our best to keep up with it. And the other thing is that I say that I felt when I was growing up that I said, look, I get it, especially for kids. Um, that you've got to make it exciting, because I don't care how great it is if it's not stimulating enough. There's two things that happen. One, you're not going to keep their attention, and two, they're going to be, unfortunately, very honest, and they might say, you stink. I
Yes.
said, all right. I said, tell me how you really feel. All right. And they're not going to want to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that's all right, because there's 31 flavors of ice cream, but I got to make sure I have that right ice cream flavor for you,
Exactly. I feel
right?
that that's the same. The same is true with aging adults. If it's not
Right.
interesting to them, they're not going to want to do it either, and they'll
Correct.
really tell you how they feel too.
Absolutely. So I'll share something with your audience. So
Sure.
this person I was mentioning before, our oldest client, it's a great example. And she's 96 years old. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen her for about, I can't even believe it, about 10 years. And her husband is 93. So I first started with her, and then eventually her husband came on. But I want you to know something. So she was a classic example of what happened. She had a few falls,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure Dr. James will tell you that it's a normal thing that happens. And that's why it's really important that as we age, that we want to really stay active and do the things, and to be able to consult with your therapist like Dr. James, or if you're not in her area, to speak to another therapist. But
Mm-hmm.
there's always people willing to help you. But that being said, so she was a prisoner of her house. She refused to go out because she was afraid of
Mm-hmm.
falling. So someone else that we saw convinced her to come out. And I mean, I will put it this way: she was very skeptical. Like, yeah, sure, this is going to help me. I said, I know. Can you believe it? Because I said I just made this whole thing up. I just made it up, and you were kind enough to fall for it and come in. But I said, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. If you give me a little bit of time, and you let me know what you think. So now, years later, she tells me all the time, and don't take this the wrong way. It's not saying, look at us, look at us. But she said, Mark, I can't believe it. You've changed my life. And you know what? We didn't really change your life. It's no different than what Dr. James does. What we did is we presented exercise
Mm-hmm.
in a different way. Or the best way that I can put it is I made exercise taste like candy. I made it sweet, right? Not so sometimes bitter. I made it sweet. I made you have fun.
Yeah.
I made you thinking and doing. So here, I'll give your audience another little game that you can do. So if you have a friend or a partner, take a flashlight, or you can get a laser pointer if you want. But remember, on a laser pointer, remember, and even with a flashlight, make sure that you don't look at it. A laser, I don't want you to hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you now have your back facing a wall. Okay, white. Well, it could be any color, and that's why I was saying a laser pointer, something that's red, or if you have a small flashlight, and you're going to shine the light on the wall. Now, so your partner is behind you with the flashlight, and they're going to slowly move that light on parts of the wall. And you're going to do? You're going to take your hand and you're going to move it and
Mm-hmm.
hit that light. Oh, by the way, now I'm going to make it tricky for you. Let's draw a pretend line down the middle. And I'm going to tell you if it's on the left side of that imaginary line, I want you to get it on your right side. And if it's on the right, I want you to get it with your left side. I might make it harder for you. I might say, oh, by the way, um, I want you on the third time that you see the light that crosses over on that right side, I want you to only hit it with your right. Then the next three times you gotta cross over. So there's so many different ways I could do it. And believe it or not, and I just realized I should have looked it up, but there are flashlights out there, believe it or not.
Yes. They blink for that.
I bought one. You can get some that blink, but
Mm-hmm.
I found one that actually has four different colors.
Nice.
And you could hit the different colors,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy if people want to know. I could look, and I could go through my file and find it. But here's what I was going to tell you. This gets into higher level stuff. So if I hit uh, the green button, you got to hit it with your right. If I hit the yellow, you got to hit it with your left, and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. So there's so many different things that you can do. But that's one game that I'm bringing up. So going back, you were saying, how do we get started? So that's how it happened. And over time, I was luckily had a very supportive wife that was in marketing and stuff, and she really helped me grow. And I want to give you an example of what happened. But I think the reason I'm bringing up this story because I think it gives you a good image of kind of our line of thinking. So, again, you heard that I have done a lot of work with children. And that's what I did for many, many years. Were kids and kids that were on the spectrum of autism, kids with neurological issues, motor delays, genetic disorders, really the whole gamut. And I had this idea, and I used to work with children that were also having a tough time with weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to figure out a way to get them to move. Because you remember how we were talking about before, just taking a walk, you know, to be honest with you, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
I find it boring, right? So what I did was with high level athletes, and you might have seen this, if you ever watch ESPN or something, they have a technique where they take these parachutes and they put them on your back and you run and these parachutes open up and the idea is giving you resistance. Well,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided to say, look, I'm not worried about the resistance. You know what I did? I put these parachutes on these kids. I said, hey, This would be cool. Let's have you run and see what it looks like. And these kids would be like, this is so cool. And they're running around and this parachute's opening up. And then my wife had this idea, a marketing idea, that we took a picture of this. And then we took the picture and she put together a press release. I mean, this is the kind of work she does anyway. And then we put it in a yellow tube and we sent it out to a lot of the media, right? And the kids loved it. And the reason I'm telling you this story is I try to make exercise or movement fun. So I do similar stuff with adults. I make it fun. And I'll leave you on this. And please, I'll tell your audience right now, please, I don't want to offend you, but some of you might find it pretty humorous. Um, that from a motor standpoint, I also needed to figure out a way, how am I going to get these children to move, to maybe do a certain motor movement, throwing, maybe running, whatever. Guess what I did? I actually went out, it sounds terrible, so I apologize ahead of time. I bought fake dog poop. Dog poop, can you believe it? It was rubber dog poop. You're saying, oh my God, Mark, that is outrageous. You're right. And then I spread it all over the floor. And I took these pooper scoopers. And their goal was we had to scoop up the poop and put
Uh-huh.
it in the trail. I said, it's horrible. I said, you know what's horrible? You're not going to believe it, Johnny. I came in this morning. Someone brought their dog. They damaged my floor. I can't believe this. I cannot believe this.
But that became
And,
the exercise.
and they thought it was hysterical. And I
Hmm.
said, how fast do you think you can pick those up? And, oh, I can get those quick as you can. Right? I'll tell you another story with that poop, but it really doesn't matter how old this person happens to be, a kid, right? A young man. All right. And I'll tell you something. So this young man, one of the stuff that he had was he had a lot of anxiety, huge amount of anxiety, right? And I wanted to get him on this climbing wall and just do what we call transverse climbing. So it's not like you're going for height, you're going across the wall. And actually, just to tell the audience, that actually is much more difficult than going straight up. And, he was like, I'm not going to do it. This is crazy. Get himself all worked up. So one day I had this idea. Before he stepped into my place, I took this fake dog poop and I plastered it all over the wall in the rock holes and all that stuff. And I told this young man, I said, we had a real issue here. He goes, what? Look what happened. Someone set this pack of dogs into my wall. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know how I'm going to get him down. Now, keep in mind, this is the same young man that refused to get up on the wall. Huh. I tell you what, I can get him down for you. You you gonna you could help me out?
Hmm.
Are you kidding me? So my point by this story is, I don't care if you're 6 months old or if you're 100 years old. If I make it to a game, right, and I make it fun, you're gonna love it and you're gonna keep coming back to it.
That's true. And that's
I
what we try to do too, to make fitness, or for my standpoint, physical therapy activities or exercise fun based upon what the person likes to do. And you just find that you have more buy in from the person. They're more interested in completing their exercises and they see better results because they know that they can get back to doing something that they used to be able to do or enjoy
Yeah,
doing.
I'll give you another thing, and then I'll shut my mouth because my brain is thinking of it, and that's what I love is when people ask me questions like they're trying to do X, and I'll try to come up with ideas.
Can I
But
ask you
here's
a
a great,
question quick
a,
though?
huh?
I have a quick question for you. Who can come to fitness for health?
Mean as far as ages or as far as folks?
Either.
Anybody can come to Fitness for Health.
Okay.
We, as I was saying, we have occupational therapists, we have physical therapists, and as yourself, you have great professionals out there, and Dr. James, and we have good folks too. The difference is kind of where we differentiate ourselves is really we have a facility that really allows the therapist, as Dr. James, which she comes up with some of her own tools, and we give her more tools on her tool belt. Um, so that answers your question. But one thing is that I was going to say to your audience, and I don't know if some of you remember out there, and Dr. James might remember this. There was a game called Perfection. And what
Mm,
perfection is, it's this game, and you'd have to put these shapes into the game in a certain amount of time before it pops. It goes,
yes.
and you're like, oh my God. Well, actually, believe it or not, you can still buy this perfection, get on Amazon or online, and you could find this perfection. And why I'm telling you that, it is a great game from a cognitive piece. It's a visual spatial game, and you learn with your different pieces. And I could get into ways that you can make it harder and harder. And one way is you could turn it different ways, have it on a
Yeah.
tilt, have it, you could set the clock. And I'm going to give you, start off with 5 pieces. Remember, everything that we do in our facility, and this gets into the perfection, but to every type of program that we're doing, success builds success. And what I mean by that is you build those successes, right? You raise your confidence, you raise your self esteem. And do you know what? You're going to take more and more healthy risks. And that's what I
Absolutely.
want.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for joining Pull Up with Limbs and Things. And I wanted to go back because at the beginning you couldn't see me. So I wanted to make sure I showed you our non skid socks. And they look like this. Make sure you can see.
Well, that looks good. Now, what are those? Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So they're non-slip socks. So if you are trying to prevent yourself from having falls on surfaces, if you're like me, you like to walk around your house with just socks on and not fall down, you can wear non-skid socks. They usually are given at hospitals, but these are an opportunity for you to wear them in your home.
Well,
All
this
right.
has been a real pleasure, again, for speaking to you and your audience.
Thank
And
you.
I
I
want
appreciate
them,
you joining.
what's that?
I appreciate your joining and taking the time to join us today.
I'm happy to do that. And again, I'm happy for any of your audience. I don't even have to see them, but I'm happy. If I can help them problem solve, it would just make me happy knowing that they're even thinking about getting out there and moving, or at least contact Dr. James. So I want to thank you again. And I wish everyone a very safe and stay well and be healthy.
Yes. So, Fitness for Health information's at the bottom of the screen. You can contact Mr. Sickle at fitnessforhealth.org or 301-231-7138. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you ever need physical therapy services, if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, we service D.C., Maryland, and Virginia residents. You can give us a call at 202-643-2636, or you can send us an email, especially if you are interested in obtaining these socks, or if you just want to communicate about what's going on with you and see how we can help you, is limbsandthings@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.